The speakers today is Anand Subramanian, so he's going to be introducing the speakers. And a really quick announcement before we start the session. HCL is sponsoring an iPad for raffle ticket winners. If you don't have a raffle ticket, please check with one of the key members.
Just raise your hand.
For the whole road.
Right, up in the seat.
There's no way for us to know if you've already gotten the raffle, so you can increase your odds, of course. Then again, I think you guys are lucky already. Going with the audience, you're not going to So before we start, of course, we have to say a few things required by law. Right? So everything you say here can have some forward-looking statements, don't hold us to it. And anything we show you here can't be held against us. So, but this is more than an information session for us to tell you what we experienced through this journey. So I think we should keep it that. Before we get into this session, we just want to talk about what is HCL. Maybe not everybody knows that. So we are really a service provider. We implement various technologies, TIBCO being a key part of our portfolio. And it's a key part because we've been TIBCO partners for 15 years now. We started by implementing TIBCO products. I mean, we were the engineering arm for TIBCO in 1999, and now we're just service providers for TIBCO. And equally long and exciting has been our journey with T-Mobile. This is our 8th year working with them. And in this session, we're going to talk to you about our experiences in implementing API Exchange with T-Mobile. Right? So talking about those details are really our friends. We have Dave Kennedy from T-Mobile and then Sudeep Hebbar from HCL. They'll take you through their learnings of API Exchange. So on to you, Dave.
Got a video I want to play real quick.
Oh, yeah.
A stupid, broken, arrogant person.
People don't feel just confused by this. They feel like the confusion was deliberate, and we're here to change it all. This one? Yeah, that one, the one I pointed to. T-Mobile closing its acquisition of Metro PCS.
You can upgrade when you want, not when you're told to. We had more postpaid net adds in Q2 than Verizon, AT&T, and Sprint combined.
Okay, Jeremy, son, your overseas data bill is well over $1,000, so we had to sell your car to this guy Daryl. He's a sweet guy, Jeremy.
Company released earnings in November
fastest growing wireless company in the U.S.
T-Mobile has been very aggressive. That low-band spectrum goes far and can penetrate office walls.
A year ago, we had no LTE, and here we are today, the fastest in the nation.
This is not a promotion. It's not a gimmick. This is the end of contracts. I want every customer to have constant, complete choice.
This is a choice I despise.
Good morning, afternoon, to get this off. So, why did I show that video? Growth. T-Mobile has been growing like crazy. I've been with T-Mobile for 8 years. During that time, we had a TIBCO implementation that predated me by a couple of years. We had 30, 35 million customers, and we were kind of struggling. The AT&T buyout that failed, the rumors of Sprint, the rumors of this, the rumors of that. Everybody wanted us, and we had kind of indulgence for a couple of years. Then Ledger came on board. We bought Metro PCS. Boom, instantly initial 15 million customers. So we went from 30-some million customers to about 50 million customers. And our systems had to handle that. Now, fortunately, we had size to handle some peak things, and so we had some capacity, but I've got people in the room that are probably shaking their head like, Dave, what are you talking about? We killed ourselves to add the additional capacity. We did. There's been a lot of growth. Then we started doing all the Un-carrier moves. And we mentioned here on the screen some of them. And we grew, let's get that one back this one in. Use the Un-carrier things. This is what has been around our growth. I call it Un-carrier 0, right? First one. And Ledger, every time that he talks about T-Mobile, the first thing he always says, we're changing the way we do things so we can listen to our customers. He says, what are we doing next? He says, I look at my emails, I look at the tweets. So that's what he's doing to drive what we're doing in the Un-carrier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Un-carrier 1 was the biggest change. No contracts, right? No contracts. Un-carrier 2, upgrades. Got people loose with the 2-year upgrade, gave people the option to upgrade every 6 months. Un-carrier 3, let me see if I remember which. Okay. So that was the international roaming, and also tablets free for life. Un-carrier 4, we paid and we will continue to pay early termination fees. So people were doing it. This is driving growth. Each one of these releases had a massive amount of work behind it. A lot of that work was done in our middleware space on TIBCO, on our TIBCO platforms. Un-carrier 5 and 6, test drive. We finally got the iPhone. That was one of the things that was dragging us down. You know, whether people needed the iPhone or not, or wanted it, they wanted it in the store. They wanted to be able to come in and look at it, compare it to the S5, compare it to the iPhone 5S. They wanted it. So we had that. And we added, one of the big arguments people had, well, T-Mobile, what's your coverage like in my house? You know, and look at your coverage map. Well, people look at coverage maps, but there's hills, there's trees, there's buildings, may or may not work. So we said, all right, we'll let you have an iPhone for 7 days. So an iPhone 5S. At the same time, we released that. Morning, we released the test drive for iPhone 5S, and in the afternoon, music freedom. Everybody cares about data. And so we had to we decided to give away streaming music. Pandora, iHeartRadio, basically it was 8 different music streaming, music streaming capabilities that were provided, and it really did self-drive customers. And that was 5 and 6, and then the most recent one just released a couple months ago was the Wi-Fi. People say, hey, you know, I don't have good penetration. Your spectrum is high-band spectrum. I can't get it in my basement. Well, most people can't get good coverage in their basement stuff. So we partnered. We introduced, or we've had Wi-Fi calling for a long time. We worked with Apple and got Wi-Fi calling on their phone and partnered with them to get that out. So all this stuff has driven an enormous amount of growth for T-Mobile, and we are on the cusp of passing Sprint. I don't know when it's going to happen. I see the numbers, and I wonder any day is it going to happen. The senior leadership says that lender says that he thinks it should happen by the end of the year. So that would be pretty awesome. So we've been the number 4 carrier forever. You know, so for us to finally see that strength, I'm pretty excited about that. It will be a great opportunity. So this is more of the growth story. So you can see that we were, and you could really point to the point where Ledger came in. We started the uncarrier moves, and you just see that growth going up like a curve. They're going up almost exponential in terms of growth. It's really been pretty fantastic. We're seeing millions of customers being added every single quarter, and that is killing everybody else in the marketplace. We're typically adding more customers than the other 3 carriers combined. Again, growth, huge volumes, stresses the systems. We're going to talk about some of the things we've done because of that. So T-Mobile, I mentioned the merger with PCS. We're now a publicly traded company. Net ads, covering all that. So what have we done behind the scenes? One of the things we've done behind the scenes to get that is getting to a common platform. So we've got so getting to a common platform behind the scenes. We have multiple middlewares at T-Mobile. We have some Oracle Fusion, we have WebLogic, we have homegrown stuff, we have a huge TIBCO platform. So we're trying to consolidate. That'll make our lives simpler. So we have to do Uncarrier 8 and Uncarrier 9. We're not making changes in any middlewares. We're also consolidating our billing systems. So we have a billing system for Metro, we have a billing system for prepaid systems, we have a billing system for our main contract, and we have a billing system for a wholesale system. So we've got all these different billing systems that have come about for good reasons, but it's also going to hamper our growth at some point. So we're preparing and making changes to do that. And when you've got all these changes on the back end, you need a layer, right? Why are we here at API management forum? You need a layer to be able to put on top of that to help protect the systems that get that. And see, I think I'm going to hand it off to Sudeep here in just a second. All right. So consolidation to TIBCO, seamless interactions, enterprise monetization. Yeah, monetization is kind of an interesting one that we're looking at. I think we're behind on that one. There's some companies that some of our competitors that are starting to do better, that are better at that than we are right now. We're going to play catch up. We're going to be fast. We're going to catch up and get to beat them. So we've been working this year on migrating our systems to a single platform, and we've also put the API exchange across multiple of our platforms. And Sudeep is going to present kind of the details behind that. So I'll hand it over to Steve.
So let me dive down into the problem statement that we started. As I said, we have Intelligence Enterprise Media Platforms. We have some middlewares running on TIBCO, Fusion, and multiple platforms, media platforms running on Java. And the numbers are there for you to see. And then the most important point I want to point is the multiple entry points. So each of these middlewares I spoke about has its own entry point. For example, TIBCO has an entry point called generate HTTP, and so thereafter, Oracle Fusion has an entry point called generate SOAP, and RSP has an entry point based on Oracle Fusion again. It's called OWSM. And then these are the key challenges, and these are the requirements for a common gateway entry point into the middleware server platform. And then we also have future requirements around throttling, governance, and enterprise caching, which is not there today in the middleware domain. And then the primary need is for a lightweight gateway layer that gels well with underlying TIBCO parts, because the entire platform is going to be migrated to TIBCO. The approach we followed, obviously TIBCO API Exchange Gateway was the chosen product. So as opposed to TIBCO API Exchange, TIBCO has 2 products, as you might very well know. They have TIBCO API Exchange and they have TIBCO API Exchange Gateway. So the case study we are talking about is the exchange gateway, which is just an entry point for API. Right. So we had a three-pronged strategy on this. So first one was to leverage all the product features, study the product features correctly, and leverage all the features that it offers. Okay. And then if there are any pitfalls in the products or we need enhancements in the products, then work closely with TIBCO support and get over all the issues. Okay. And the third one is that complement the product well with whatever customization you can do, whatever the custom tools that you have, custom scripting and things like that. So I'm going to explain that in a little bit. So basically, this is the layer has to handle the security, authentication, authorization that exists today in different entry points. But as I explained, there are dependencies. So this, let me go back. So the last point, no flashback approach during go live. So this was emphasized during the development of this TIBCO exchange gateway. So when we went live, we didn't flash cut over to the new gateway, new entry point completely. What we did is we load balanced between the existing entry point and the TIBCO exchange gateway. Okay, for a certain period of time to make sure the new gateway handles all the requests and millions of transactions properly. And then over a period of time, maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we cut over to the new gateway, which means that we had to have all the interfaces, right? All the interfaces intact. Okay. So this slide has a little bit of animation. You can observe closely. So this is how the existing platform, middleware platform, looked in TIBCO. So we had BW, which obviously was the biggest, and then we had Fusion-based middleware, and we have RSP, which is J2E, and there are multiple other Java-based platforms as well. The entry point for RSP was OWSM, which is inside the Fusion box. We had partners and internal applications and backend applications which are represented lightly. Okay, so this is the first phase. We introduced it by the Exchange Gateway, and then we moved our security from Fusion to the Exchange Gateway, and that is how we could retire OWSM. Let me tell it again. Okay, now the TIBCO API Exchange Gateway is the entry point for the J2E based middleware, and we retired OWSM. Okay. The next phase is the TIBCO API Exchange Gateway grew bigger. Okay, and that became so with that we were able to retire the entire Oracle Fusion. Take a page again. And as part of the same effort, we also introduced TIBCO business events, complex event processing. And in the next phase, it grew further bigger, and the entry points inside the TIBCO BW are going away. This is still under implementation. And TIBCO API Exchange Gateway is now the entry point for TIBCO BW and RSP. Okay, and in the last phase, we are also looking at retiring the entire RSP, and TIBCO BW will become the sole middleware platform.
What is the RV messaging?
Sorry?
The RV messaging.
RV is the TIBCO Rendezvous. It's the corporate request.
I know what it is.
Sorry.
No, what is it used for? Only for connecting?
Oh, it's mostly for connecting from BW to TIBCO adapters and stuff like that. It's used mostly internally. Okay, let me talk about implementation. So those who know TIBCO API Exchange Gateway would know what are facades, what are targets. Those who don't know, don't worry about it now. And then we had to implement dynamic routing. So there is a concept called dynamic routing keys, which needed XSLTs. We implemented that in the layer, the exchange layer. We had to do message transformations like from REST to JMS, from SOAP over HTTP to JMS over HTTP and stuff like that. SOAP over JMS and stuff like that. And one of the key implementations we did was security. Okay, so we did SSL, WA security, HTTP basic authentication, and we integrated TIBCO API Exchange with Microsoft Active Exchange, Microsoft Active Directory for the authentication part, and for the authorization we had policy-based authorization within the API Exchange gateway layer. Okay, and we did a lot of custom implementation for audit, error handling, and analytics. So TIBCO API Exchange gateway comes with what is called a central logger, and it has two pieces in central logger. The gateway itself provides what is called a central logger publisher, and then it has a subscriber, and then a database and UI and stuff like that to display the analytics, audit, and error messages. We made use of only the publisher part, but on the subscriber part, we had an in-house application called ROCS. So we made sure that TIBCO API Exchange publishes JMS message, and then we could subscribe it from ROCS and transform it to the data that we wanted. This is for the business analytics and operational. This is the theme. I'm not going to talk much about it. The numbers are there. So most of the team, some of the team members are right here in the room. Ram is the architect from T-Mobile, and Dave has always been the driving force behind this effort. And Himanshu, I don't know, Rakesh, is he there or not? So, okay, and what are the learnings we had during the course of the implementation? Right? We had multiple challenges, and we learned a lot of things. So C stands for challenge, S stands for solution. Okay, so so TIBCO API Exchange Gateway comes with the UI, which the name is config UI, which allows you to configure facades and targets, the operations that interface the consumers and the ones that interface the backends. So the UI, to say, so the primary thing is there is no facility to upload a digital in the gateway layer, which is still lacking. So obviously that's something that I'm sure TIBCO will take care of in the next few versions. And then the UI was a little unstable, and we opened multiple SRs and worked through it. And then there is no support for batch configuration of services. If you wanted to configure similar services in a batch, there was no support. So we wrote some custom scripts that would directly update the configuration files. We had a need for more advanced error mappings. For example, if there is any error, either from the backend or from the gateway layer itself, TIBCO API Exchange would throw a standard error message. Okay, and we had to translate it to our name. So we wrote custom XSLTs and plugged it into the Exchange layer. And then we had to build policies for the authorization. And TIBCO API Exchange doesn't have UI or any kind of interface for configuring the policies. So we had to write some custom scripts that would generate the policy XMLs and plug it in. And then message metadata conversion and message format transformation. When I say message metadata conversion, I mean it's just from HTTP to, you can imagine how SOAP HTTP to SOAP JMS, right? So there are a lot of HTTP headers and JMS headers, and we have to correspond the two. And there are also SOAP headers. So when I say message metadata conversion, I mean the header conversion, and then message format transformation from XML to from REST, fetching the elements from the REST URI and forming an XML and vice versa and stuff like that. So we again wrote some custom SSLs. And we had some performance bottlenecks and memory leaks. TIBCO supported this fantastically, and we were able to get through all those issues. And there is the first phase of the implementation, which I showed in the slide before, is already in production, and it's able to handle 5 million transactions a day today. It's live. So we had to do some tuning, and TIBCO supported us with the tuning parameters for all the engines. And then we also had to do capacity planning with benchmarking and tuning, which is almost a similar thing. Deployment and monitoring, this is another important aspect. So TIBCO AP Exchange Gateway comes with what is called M&M console, but that is not functional yet. So we had a hard time to deploy, start, stop, and administer the engines. Okay. So initially the only way to start and stop the engines is issue a start command on the Unix line, and then kill -9 to stop it. Okay. And then we worked with TIBCO support, and finally we figured out a way to deploy it in the TIBCO administrator itself, because TIBCO AP Exchange Gateway at the end of the day is a business events engine. It's, I don't know if you know this, AP Exchange Gateway is nothing but a business events engine. So we figured out a way to deploy the business events engine itself in the TIBCO administrator. So that way we could deploy, we could start, stop, and we could administer the engine. And we wrote some custom scripts for health check, metrics collection, and reporting. So this is the future roadmap. I'm not talking about the future roadmap for T-Mobile, but I'm talking about the future roadmap that T-Mobile expects from an AP Exchange product. So the programs that are lined up in T-Mobile, as Dave explained, would require all these things in the very near future from an AP Exchange product. So some of them are message transmission. So we are looking at message ability to transform JSON to schema where XML and vice versa. Similarly, so currently AP Exchange Gateway provides an ability to transform, but you will have the right customized selfies and plugin. There is no visual editor where you can do the transformation. So that is something we are looking for. And then lightweight sequential and parallel orchestrations. We are not looking for a full-fledged orchestration layer because that will be PW. But we at least need a lightweight sequential and parallel orchestration capability in the gateway itself. Ability to quickly onboard new services from artifacts. This is what I was talking about earlier. There is no way you can upload a WSDL in the gateway layer. So we need an ability to onboard the new services from artifacts, maybe WSDL, WADL, XML, XSD, and things like that. Better policy management. So we have a policy management for authorization, but as I explained earlier, there is no way we can visually configure the policies. Throttling and SLA management. Throttling, there is capability, we haven't explored it yet, so that is in our future roadmap. Enhanced deployment monitoring and management console. We are able to get the business events engine deployed, but we need more capability in terms of closely monitoring and managing the engines. Reports and analytics. So we have a lot of custom tools to do the reports and analytics, but if it is given out of the box from the Exchange Gateway, it would be great. Performance enhancement and footprint reduction. So currently it takes a lot of footprint because it's a business events engine underneath. So we want to reduce the footprint a little. And partner onboarding. So far the partners, we have our own authentication and authorization for partner, but TIBCO AP Exchange Gateway itself provides a partner onboarding capability, so we want to leverage that probably going forward. And then AP Exchange Gateway Manager, which is the other product I was talking about, AP Exchange itself. So we want to probably go into that as well. Okay, that's all I have. I'll open for question and answers.
So, yeah, the engine runs the DMZ, or it's inside the network?
You can run it anywhere.
Okay. Yeah. So best practice wise, would you recommend like one inside the engine?
Okay, we have two use cases. In T-Mobile, we have what are called national partners like Best Buy, Amazon, Livstock.com, and the other partners. For them, we expose the APIs over DMZ. And we have internal applications like retail applications, care applications, web-based, handset-based. They are internal, they are in the internal network. So to them, we expose over non-DMZ.
And both will have a different management console?
Yes, both will have different management console.
We've got a lot of questions and concerns about the using XSLT and transformations in the API exchange. Have you any additional thoughts or insights about how that's impacted performance or your scalability or lessons you've learned from starting to leverage more and more XSLT in that layer?
Okay, as far as we noticed, XSLTs did not impact the runtime performance much. Our major concern was at the design time, where we had to externally develop XSLTs and plug it in. But there was no concern as far as the performance is concerned. It was doing that.
Across the all of the program that you're talking about here, what have been your perspectives and attitudes on REST versus SOAP? Messaging and the strategy that T-Mobile has had for one versus the other, or both, or places to use one, places to use the other?
So, sorry, I missed the first part of the question.
Just curious how REST and SOAP are playing throughout the architecture, and where you're choosing to use one or the other, or if you are trying to get rid of SOAP, or these kind of questions that are sort of circulating around in the industry.
Yeah, so they're circulating around internally at T-Mobile too. So what we're finding is that the front end people give us REST. It's got to be REST, and everything's going to be REST. And more traditional ESB, SOA, are like, oh, SOAP XML, that's all you need. And so that's actually been a debate internally for a number of years. For example, we have a mobile device, mobile app that runs on people's phones, or it's called My Account. And we have enterprise services, right? You don't want to have proliferation, you want to reuse and all that kind of stuff. Well, being able to give 100 fields to our IVR application over a 10 gigabit network inside of our server is completely different than communicating over an edge or HSPA connection that they really only need 6 of those fields. So we had done some layering stuff back even before the whole API management paradigm came about. And so as the API management, API exchange, and all this thing really has kind of evolved in the past couple of years, it's kind of like, well, that fits right into the model we were already doing. What has changed and caused us a little bit of consternation recently has been that whole, REST versus SOAP. We were still doing SOAP out to the My Account app and others like it. Where would be a good example of the difference was Walmart, right? Walmart's kind of the 900-pound gorilla. We do what they say. We want to be in their store. They're not particularly flexible, so they weren't using any particular modern protocol, and so we had to customize it to that. But again, it was just like an API management layer. We call them adapters, that is effectively an API management.
What protocol were they demanding?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yes.
That's XML over HTTP.
Yeah,
POPs. So they weren't doing it. It's no problem to support that, but we had SOAP underneath, so we just had a layer that converted their format.